We've got a powerful cold front pushing offshore with strong upper level winds and an Arctic push coming in right behind it, but we've got a Pacific Northwest storm coming very soon. In fact, the tropics are getting active as well, so a lot of things need attention still, even behind this front. So I've got all the details right here.
One Nation Weather.
Alright, we're going to start off with a look at Future Radar 3D for the next 24 to 48 hours for us here with the HRRR model on Radar Omega. You can see as we make our way into our Tuesday for us here, we've got some pretty heavy rainfall, as well as some snowfall bands pushing into portions of the Midwest, into the Chicago region, into the Fort Wayne, Indiana area, even back down towards Indianapolis into the afternoon hours on your Tuesday. And there will be the potential for very heavy snow for a very brief period of time in these pockets. I wouldn't worry about extended snowfall, but nonetheless, we could get a quick flurry or two in some communities if you don't get anything. But overall, the accumulation levels are going to be pretty low as we've had warmer conditions recently. The ground is still kind of warm, even though it's cooling off quite immensely here. You can see here on the 3D mode, you can see how some of these cloud tops are pretty high, even as this pushes eastward. I would watch out for some gusty winds along the front of this, even as the snowfall band weakens as it pushes towards portions of eastern Kentucky, as well as into portions of Ohio. Now, we're also looking at very gusty winds with this. The northern United States getting some 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. It has triggered some high wind alerts there over the Midwest into portions of Iowa, say. The wind gusts will overall get a little bit more tame as they push on off towards the south and east, but nonetheless, we're going to see some of these 20, 30, even 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts make their way on over into Appalachian Mountains. Now, in terms of your weather alerts, we've got freeze warnings from portions of northern Texas curling all the way on up and around into portions of Indianapolis, portions of western Ohio, but we've got freeze watches into parts of the Arklatex. We've got a freeze watch as well moving into portions of eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, northern Georgia, as well as the western Carolinas and far western portions of Virginia, not to be mistaken with West Virginia. Now, in terms of your temperatures compared to average for your Halloween, I showed you this graphic in the last video. Cooler than average over most, if not all of the country, except for along the west coast and in Florida pretty much. Now, if you want to see exactly what those temperatures are going to be, head on back to my last video as I broke that down. Now, in terms of your temperature anomaly tracking, I don't want to spend too much time looking at the cool air here. I want to show you what's going to happen next. But you can definitely see as we make our way through the midweek, yes, I sound like a broken record because I've been talking about this for a while. Departures continue pushing on off towards the south and east, but you can see some of these warmer conditions already starting to move into the western coast, 0 to 5 degrees above where we should be for this time of the year. So not much, but you begin to see some of these reds fill in and eventually intensify. This is where we're going to begin to get, 5, 10, maybe even 15 degrees above where we should be in the Four Corners, into portions of the western plains, the high plains for us there, Nebraska, say Kansas as well. And this is just at the end of this week, so just after you think you got an Arctic blast and winter's all ready to get going and it's going to be a cold, harsh winter, don't think so fast. We've got warmer air coming on in. The only place where the cooler air is still lingering around is kind of along the east coast at this point. You can see most areas, though, looking to warm up, especially along the southern tier of the country by the time we head towards the weekend. And as we head towards, say, November 6th, this is Monday, so about a week out from when I'm filming this, again, playing that out to that point, you can see getting about 5 to 10 degrees above average, even maybe up to 15 degrees above average over a good part of the southern and eastern United States. Cooler than average conditions looking to be, or at least near average conditions looking to be over the north central. And the reason for that is that we're going to have some systems riding up and over the ridging that's going to be moving through the southern part of the country, and that is going to in turn result in some stormy conditions up in that region. Now, in terms of your 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, I'm going to go ahead and flip over to that right now. We're going to go ahead and take a look. You can see it's looking quite far, a good bit above average for us here, especially in the Four Corners region. This is as we go November 5th through 9th, but you can see all the way from the west coast into the southeastern United States, some form of above average conditions at this point. The only places with slightly cooler than average conditions, northern Minnesota through the UP of Michigan on up into Maine and the northern parts of those New England states. Now, your 6 to 10 day outlook for precipitation, pretty much wetter than average for everyone except in the south central, but especially along the west coast, we're going to have almost an atmospheric river-like setup hitting California and Oregon's coastlines, and we could see some very hefty mountain snowfall maybe to come out of that, depending on how cold the system is. By the way, just a quick little advertiser here. I cover everything from short-term, long-range, severe weather, tropical weather, and winter weather, so go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel now. In terms of tracking your European model precipitation, this is going to basically run through the next 10 days or so, and honestly, the Euro and GFS aren't in that bad of agreement over this entire time period. Again, the tightly packed isobars coming in from the northwest, very cold air moving over the eastern United States through the rest of this week, and no exception for anyone really. This has hit everybody over the country by the end of this week. You can see we've got these high pressure areas though that are going to be sitting over the south central by the time we head towards the end of this week, and the systems that are going to be moving into the Pacific Northwest are going to be riding on up and over that, and once they get past, that's when things are going to open the door for this to maybe turn to the northeast or dive on down into the southeastern United States even, for say. But as you can see, as we make our way in towards our early Thursday morning, this is 4 or 5 a.m. Pacific time for us here. Some very hefty rainfall. Overall, looking like mostly rain, maybe some snowfall in far northern Washington and northern Idaho as the system onsets. Overall, looking like this system's not going to make it past really the mountains up there into portions of central Washington and Oregon. And then we begin to see at least what's left of it in the form of very light rain and snowfall make its way in a very thin band over that and into the north central United States. So maybe a quick few flurries there in portions of the Dakotas, maybe some lighter rain if you don't get that. And then you can see we've already got our next system knocking on the door, and eventually one of these is definitely going to make it over, and I think it's as we head towards, say, November 5th, 6th, 7th, that one of these is going to make it over and begin to break down the high pressure that's going to be kind of floating around there in the south central. You can see this is technically our system number 2, riding on up and over the ridge, and it kind of falls apart. Maybe tries to transpire into a surface low here over the Great Lakes by, say, the time we head towards November 6th. You can already see another system knocking on the door, so this is now number 3, maybe even number 4 if you want to consider it that, just because of the surface low development on that other one. But nonetheless, you get the point. We've got a good chain of some pretty hefty systems moving into the northern part of the country, and eventually this is kind of what I've been looking at on the model trends, and the GFS and Euro have both been hinting at something. Around the November 6th, 7th time frame, something forms at the surface out of one of these second, probably third systems for us here. And it's looking overall like that could maybe turn into, if not a severe weather event, some sort of wintry event, maybe even a nor'easter as it makes its way up the coast. So I just want to, just keep an eye on the pattern as we go about a week or two out, because that could certainly allow for a storm to hit the east coast with pretty hard fury. Now, in terms of your storm track to start November, again, low pressure systems are riding out of the Pacific Northwest and making their way on over to the east coast. They got to go over that little ridge here that's going to be over the south central United States, and that's going to be a pretty prominent ridge at that. Now let's go ahead and hop into our tropical update. We've got a couple areas that I'm watching right now. As we start the day on your Halloween, we've got a 10% chance of development over portions just northeast of the Bahamas. Overall, that chance has gone down, but we have an increasing chance for tropical development, in fact, to a 60% chance here into the western Caribbean, and as that pushes its way towards portions of Mexico, Central America, I would certainly be watching that. But let's just start off with what's going on here. We might get some rainfall, some gusty winds for portions of, say, like Hamilton, Bermuda. But really, the low pressure system, the cold front moving off the east coast, it's going to combine with whatever's left of this sheared apart system here that's northeast of the Bahamas. As I'm filming this on your Monday evening, they're going to move on off towards the north and east and basically form a front over the open waters now. What's interesting is the energy from that front is going to go all the way on down into the Caribbean, so very messy with heavy rainfall over the next several days in the Caribbean, and eventually that could help to spin something up here. This is November 2nd. You can see some sort of system sitting between, say, Hispaniola and portions of northern South America, so it'd be interesting to watch what's going on with that. But overall, the orange takes us straight towards portions of eastern Mexico and Central America, and eventually it looks like something will just be sitting right off of that coastline there. You can see kind of making a landfall, maybe as a tropical storm. The GFS has been sending this up towards Florida in random model runs. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And then other times you see fronts coming down. So really, I don't want to get anybody thinking that any sort of land impacts from a tropical system will be occurring to the U.S. But whatever's going on here looks weird, and in fact, there's a hurricane potential down the line out of what's left of that system, according to the GFS model. But again, the GFS model likes to go ballistic on things, and we don't need to necessarily agree with it every time. So just monitor the potentials out of any system that we get going in the Gulf or Caribbean. This is an area that's normally watched for development this time of the year, but we would have to see, because that would be a very similar track to Ian if some sort of system were to develop out of that, even if it had already made a landfall on Mexico. So just keep a watch, but again, nothing to really stress about quite yet. Now, in terms of liking, subscribing, and commenting, I'd really appreciate it if you do it. And thanks for watching.